Hi, I'm Laynie, and I want to have eyes that see Jesus at work in my life. Join me in a 5-day study called Opening Blind Eyes, and I'm going to teach on 5 topics that include opening up our spiritual eyes, exercising our spiritual sight, seeing people in our life from the right perspective, inviting Jesus into our darkness, and last but not least, avoiding blind guides. And those are people who will lead us astray. Let's begin on day 1 as we talk about how Jesus will open up our spiritual eyes. We're going to talk about the Apostle Paul. The Apostle Paul is one of the greatest missionaries and world changers known in the history of our faith. He even wrote a majority of the New Testament of the Bible. However, before he met Jesus, he was spiritually blind. He did not know Jesus as Lord. He even went as far as to kill, imprison, and persecute Christians. Paul was a Jewish Pharisee, which means he would have received the highest form of education of any man in his time. And he knew the Old Testament by heart. However, like we said, he didn't know Jesus as Lord. That is, until he was on the road to Damascus. He was heading into Damascus to kill, imprison, and persecute more Christians when a light flashed from heaven. And Paul fell to his knees and he heard a voice say, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Paul immediately responded, "Who are you, Lord?" He knew the authority of the voice that spoke to him. He didn't say, "Who are you, angel?" or "Who are you, voice in the sky?" He said, "Who are you, Lord?" And Jesus responded, "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting." He said, "Now get up, go into Damascus, and then you will be told what you must do." When Paul got up from the ground, he was physically blind. However, spiritually, his eyes were wide open. He had encountered the living Christ. He had met Jesus as Lord. And he was blinded for 3 days. And this time of blindness represents him being blind to his old way of seeing. He has a whole new way of looking at life now because he had met Jesus. It also represents a time of transformation. Paul would have been dealing with sin in his life, and he also would have been recognizing his need for a Savior. So when God restored his sight 3 days later, he now had new physical sight and spiritual sight and a whole new purpose and mission for his life. He would go on to spread the news of the gospel, where in his old life, he was trying to stop it. When we meet the transforming power of Jesus, our spiritual eyes are opened and our purposes become clear. Before we are saved, we are spiritually blind like Paul. He thought he was doing the right thing, but he was acting in ignorance. When we meet Jesus as Lord and invite his Spirit into our life, God opens up our spiritual eyes and we have new eyes to see. And like Paul, we're blinded to our old way of seeing. And we deal with the tension of our sin and our need for a Savior. And our life is transformed when we invite Jesus in and he opens up our eyes. So I pray today, if you haven't met Jesus as Lord and your spiritual eyes have not been opened, you will invite him in and that he will transform your sight and transform your life. And if you are a believer, ask God to open your eyes and give you a clear vision of him in your life today.